Hi everyone, meet Cassie. She is a new goat along with Susan, who's right over here. And they were rescued from a hoarding situation. Apparently it was horrific. She's got a piece of her ear missing. We're not really sure why. But the thing is, she is actually pregnant with either twins or triplets. We're not sure. And she is due any day. So we're really excited to see those kids. But anyway, we're here today because you asked for it. You asked a bunch of questions. I said, ask me anything. And we got all kinds of questions. And I'm going to hopefully answer most of them for you. So the first question is, have I always been vegan and what led me to the path? Well, I actually became a vegetarian at the age of 12, sort of rebelling against my parents when I sort of saw the light that animals were not food. And in my mid-20s later, maybe a decade later or so, I became a vegan. And I've been a vegan ever since. So it's been, gosh, I don't know, well over 40 years since I turned vegan. The question is whether or not a baking and culinary version of my butter is in any of my cookbooks. And yes, it's in both the Homemade Vegan Pantry and the Vegan Creamery. The recipes are slightly different, but they will both produce a wonderful hard butter that will make flaky croissants, pie crusts, buttercream, whatever you want to make. And there are variations to both of those. So you have an option of using different milks, fermented or not, cultured or not. You have an option of using different oils so that you can, there's some flexibility there. Another question I got was, what are my tips for going vegan? And I would say my first tip is to explore the breadth of culinary delights from all over the globe and get in your kitchen and learn how to cook. Explore the range of cuisine that's already naturally plant-based from a historical perspective, cultural perspective, and just start exploring all of these foods that you may never have had before. What's so exciting is that oftentimes people who grow up in eating the standard American diet are eating sort of the same foods every day, and they don't explore beyond that. When you go vegan, oftentimes people say that they're now eating a wider range of foods than ever, because all of a sudden it's like opening up your mind to this whole new world that you didn't even know existed. Vegans actually don't eat a more limited diet. They eat even a broader diet than the average person. So in continuing Ask Me Anything, someone asked me if I was working on any cookbooks right now. I'm not actually working on a cookbook, but I am working on a food systems book that would explain to the average person what's wrong with the food system now and what you can personally do about it. What's my go-to comfort meal? I would say it has something to do with rice. So some Japanese dish. I have a great one, oyako donburi. I made a video of it, and it's vegan chicken and egg. I make it with mushrooms instead of chicken, obviously. And then the egg is made out of tofu, but it's just something that I love. Ramen is another one that I love, but I also love spaghetti al pomodoro, just with tomato sauce, or with smoked shiitake. I have a video on that too. But these are sort of foods that I need to have when I'm totally stressed out, and they just make me feel better. So the question is, are there other influencers or cookbook authors that I go to for recipes or techniques? I can't say I have a gazillion cookbooks. I can't say that I spend a lot of time perusing recipes anymore, but I do take inspiration from a variety of ideas, people, both old and new. I mean, I still go back and read my French cookbooks like Julia Child. I have a subscription to Food and Wine and Bon Appetit, and I flip through them and get inspiration and ideas, even if they're not vegan. Vegan influencers, I love Rainbow Plant Life. There's Derek Sarno. I mean, there are so many that have amazing ideas and techniques. Mary's Test Kitchen, she's always tinkering the kitchen. I love her as well too. So somebody asked whether or not you could use calcium carbonate or something else if you can't get calcium sulfate. Although calcium sulfate is known as gypsum, it's actually pretty widely available. And I bought it in multiple countries. So online, if you just Google it, it's also very inexpensive. A lot of cheeses don't require that coagulant, You can use an acid like lemon juice or vinegar sometimes, depending on what plant milk you're trying to curdle. I would need to get an idea of exactly what you're trying to do before I could answer that question specifically. But you can go ahead and try an acid coagulant, magnesium chloride, calcium carbonate. You could try these and see if it works with that particular milk. But every milk is different, so I can't give a broad, yes, this works, no, it doesn't. How many of you would be interested in a more customized channel, a Patreon account or something? Maybe, having a Zoom meeting with me once every quarter, once every month, something like that, where I can answer your questions, dive deeper into inquiries that you might specifically have. Special recipes that I might share just with you and not with the general public, or just a sneak peek before I launch it to the public. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. Oh my gosh, I got a question. Who is my favorite daughter? I wonder who asked that question, because I have 2 daughters and I love them both equally. That's Serafina.
Yeah, it was.
Of course it was. So someone asked me if I had a salmon recipe. I don't have a specific salmon recipe, but I do have various fishy recipes in both the Japanese cookbook that I have, as well as in the vegan meat cookbook. I have seen recipes for vegan salmon online on Instagram, and so taking a block of tofu and shaping it a certain way and cutting it. I think I'm kind of at a point where I want something to be similar, but I really don't want it to be exactly like that. So I want something to serve the purpose that that thing had. There is a brand that makes a vegan salmon, and I heard it was amazing. I ordered it, and honestly, I couldn't eat it. It was so realistic. So I'm at that point. My son absolutely loved it, and others did too. It was pretty amazing. In fact, I still have some in my freezer because I couldn't eat it. I'm saving it for when my son comes and visits next. So the next question is, do I offer cooking classes? Because I mentioned a student of mine had come up with the crumbles from the pulp of the egg recipe that I posted. That student actually, by the way, is a good friend of mine now. But I only teach abroad when I'm abroad. So I lead these culinary tours to places like Italy, and you would go to Italy and stay with me for a week, and you would learn how to cook. And we'd go and explore the cultural wonders of Italy as well. But I no longer provide instruction in my home or locally, unless it's for a fundraiser for something like Rancho Compasión or another good cause, where I'm willing to donate my time.
You mentioned using the eggs in baking. Could you please elaborate how to sub eggs when baking with this recipe?
So I mentioned my egg video that you can use it for baking because it has binding capabilities, which is really, really great. The other thing that we need for eggs is the leavening capability. So I suggest you add about a tablespoon of baking powder to the egg mixture to substitute for eggs in the recipes that you're making. Everyone is obsessed with cottage cheese, and everyone asks me if I have a cottage cheese recipe, and yes, I do. And I will be posting it, but it's a 2-day recipe, and unfortunately, I'm going to Japan in a couple of days. I won't have time to shoot it until I get back. If I could have any superpower, of course, I would want somehow to create peace, love, equity, healthcare, prosperity for every person on this planet and all sentient beings, all animals as well. In other words, we would all live together on this planet in peace with mutual respect. Look at all of these chestnut mushrooms that are growing in our mushroom garden. And they are so ready to harvest. Someone's got to eat them before they go bad. Whoa. What's my favorite mushroom? If they're fresh, I think my favorite mushroom is porcini. They are so silky and delicious when they're fresh. They're delicious and robust in flavor when they're dried. So I would say maybe porcini, but these are pretty delicious. I'm gonna saute them. I've got people coming over for dinner tomorrow night, and so I will saute these for them. And they just cropped up in a few days, and we'll leave some of these to sort of decompose so that they will, the spores will be left behind. So someone asked me, what would I want people to do in my honor? Which is, wow, I'm just honored that you even asked that question. It's beautiful. I guess what I would say is learn how to cook, teach someone else how to cook, and break bread with others. Share your food, share your love with others, and create community. It's only through community that we are going to all be able to stay together on this planet, create peace, create love, spread the butter.
Would you consider writing an autobiography that walks us through your life journey?
You know, I've always thought, why would I write an autobiography? But enough people have been asking me, and I think I'm beginning to, at my ripe old age, figure out what was my purpose? What was my calling? What was it all about? Because sometimes when you're going through life, you can't really figure it out. You can't put your finger on what is the message. So I think we need to know what the message is before we can write anything. And I think I'm beginning to figure that out. What I want my legacy to be is to inspire people in whatever way they can to believe in themselves, no matter the hardships, and to feel powerful to change the world for the better, to be able to love, to spread compassion, to care about the world, and to inspire that same caring in others. So one of the questions I was asked was, what do I think is the most effective way to get people to go vegan? And there have been so many ways people have approached this question. Over the last decade or so, the thinking among activists was that general activism doesn't work, and so we have to change people's food choices by changing what's sold in the marketplace. In other words, what's called market-based solutions. And I participated in that when I was at Miyoko's Creamery, and I too believe that. I believed that that was an important element of getting people to go vegan. I still believe that it's important to have those products so that people have options. Not just vegans, but even non-vegans if they're exploring a departure from the omnivore diet. However, they have to have a reason for exploring those products. That's why activism is still important. I think there's been an important component missing from our way of activism, and that is creating a sense of community, embracing people and letting them know that they belong. Because what happens when people leave the so-called omnivore world or try a vegan diet is that, they're no longer hanging out with their barbecue buddies or going out and grabbing a burger or pizza with their friends, but they're not joining any new community for the most part. So we have to find a way to embrace people as they embark on this new journey. So creating an inclusive, open, loving space, I believe, is absolutely key to getting people to realize that, it's not this extreme movement, it's a very inclusive, inviting way of life. The other thing that's really important, of course, is delicious food and knowing how to cook. One of the reasons that people leave veganism oftentimes is they don't know what to eat, and they don't know how to eat, and they don't know how to cook. This has actually been studied. It's part of a study on recidivism from veganism. And so we have to teach people about new foods, about how to cook, how to make delicious food. And the more we can cook together, form maybe cooking clubs, cook with your neighbor, form communities around, have cooking parties, that sort of thing, and celebrate being back in the kitchen, reclaiming the power of cooking in the kitchen. This is one of the greatest forms of activism, and it makes people feel empowered and warm and fuzzy inside. So someone asked me if I had any tips on eating a vegan diet and trying to prevent osteoporosis. I am not a dietitian, and so I'm not an expert on this, but one of the things that I've learned as someone who is almost 70 is that, yes, you lose bone mass and you lose muscle mass, especially after you're 60. And in order to maintain that, doing weight-bearing exercises is absolutely key. So even if you're not a weightlifter, I am. but I don't go nearly as heavy anymore because I've had too many injuries, as I did in the past, that is. But whether it's taking long walks, which is a weight-bearing exercise, but carrying maybe 5 pounds, so that you're putting more, you're making your bones and your muscles work harder. That apparently is one of the most effective ways to retain that calcium in your bones. Eating lots of leafy green vegetables, tofu, things that are high in calcium, magnesium, vitamin D, getting sun exposure. Apparently those are all important. Luckily, I don't have osteoporosis. Hopefully I'm able to push that aside. And we do see people in their 90s who are still able to walk up hills and do things. It's more of a risk for women, especially as they lose estrogen after menopause. So that is another reason why we have to maintain our bone health through activity and healthy diet. Ooh, somebody asked me why I started my YouTube channel. I actually started it right after I was fired from Miyoko's Creamery. I needed something to do that was creative, that allowed me to give, that allowed me to take my mind off, I don't know, the darkness that was actually in my life. And when I'm cooking, when I'm in the kitchen, when I'm teaching, when I'm communicating with the world, I am actually pretty happy. One of the happiest things that I did during the pandemic was Miyoko's Home Comforts, that show I had every single day for a number of months. It was a Facebook Live and tens of thousands of people tuned in. And I loved doing that. I loved the liveness of it, communicating with people. I'm thinking of doing kind of a YouTube Live again. But I started the channel because I needed to do something that made me feel good about myself. We all need to do that. We all, in periods of depression, in periods of rejection, because when I was kicked out of Miyoko's, of course, I felt deeply rejected. And, I think that's a common theme for a lot of people, is we go through life feeling rejected by friends, family, our peers, our job, our colleagues, whatever. And, we're all going home and feeling like, how do I feel good about myself so I can put myself out there in the world again? I did it largely for me because I needed to feel healthy in mind and spirit. Hi, Mr. Hi, Mr. Mo. One of the reasons I started a vegan cheese brand, vegan cheese and butter brand, and also written books on the subject like Artisan Vegan Cheese and the Vegan Creamery, and included vegan cheese and butter recipes in all the other cookbooks, is because of the dairy industry. Mo is a male dairy calf, and of course, half the animals born on any farm will be male, and if they don't give milk, they're not necessary, so they are slaughtered at a very young age and sold as cheap hamburger or raised for veal. And he was one of them. He was a male dairy calf who unfortunately was very, very sick, and he was just kind of left to die, not given food or medication. And so he came to live with us. He's had a lot of issues, but he's much healthier. We're hoping he can grow into a full-grown adult. He's just the sweetest little boy. Yes, you are. Yes, you're so sweet. Oh, baby boy. So someone wanted to know why I left Miyoko's. Not by choice. I was removed from the company by the board. And, that story you can read about. I might tell more about it at some point. Certainly not by choice. I didn't sell the company. Some people think I sold the company for millions. I did not. I was simply asked to leave. Oh, yes, I know. It's so yummy to lick people, huh? So people are asking would I like my company back? And also some people are asking, when are your products coming back on shelf? Well, I don't own the company anymore, so I don't know. There was a bidding process. Miyoko's, after they kicked me out 4 years later, you try to lie down, basically went almost bankrupt. And they liquidated their assets. And I put a bid in to buy the company back, but I lost out to Melt Organics. That's another vegan butter brand, Prosperity Foods. And I don't know if they're going to resurrect the brand or if they bought it to sink it. I have no idea. But people often ask, you know, am I going to start another brand? I'm debating it. I am thinking about it. That's all I can say for now. What do I do to relax? Well, I hang out with these guys occasionally. Hang out with my dog. I don't know where he is. Oh, he's over there. Go for walks, go on hikes, read. Yeah, watch a really good show or movie. What is my go-to breakfast? I would say it's one of two things. It's either rice with natto, which is very Japanese, and I make my own natto, or overnight oats or steel-cut oats with bananas, homemade yogurt, hemp seeds, chia seeds, walnuts, that sort of thing. So it's either one of those two. And then I don't have breakfast every morning. Sometimes I have a very early lunch instead. But yeah, if I'm hungry, it's usually one of those two. I'm going to tell you a story today about how I almost died and how I was rescued by two cute guys. So, one time I'd taken my goats up on a hike up on the hillside, and I was standing next to a ravine. I was probably looking at my phone or something when one of the goats, kind of a wild girl, Madeline, started attacking me. She was up on her hind legs and coming down like this, and I started screaming at the top of my lungs because she wouldn't stop, and I thought, I'm going to be in that ditch dead. When all of a sudden, out of the blue, these two cute guys just showed up. They ran down the hill and they chased her away and they flanked my side and they saved my life. And now I want you to meet one of them right now in the stall here, Rufus, one of the original goats, one of the two first animals that came to the sanctuary. Unfortunately, his mate, Reggie, passed away last year. Reggie died in my arms. I held his head. And it was really, really hard for me because I loved him so much. And Rufus too. Rufus is on stall rest right now because he's got a bad leg. But yeah, if you show animals love, they show you love. They are attuned to you and they will protect you. And when you get better, you can come into the garage again, okay? I still have to clean up your poop in the garage. Yeah, you left me a pile of poop. Yes, you did. I love you so much, Rufus. Okay, I was asked, can you just use a probiotic capsule to ferment your cheese, like so many other recipes suggest? Yes, you can. Basically, you need something to lower the pH and kickstart fermentation. The difference is that there is no guarantee or idea of what types of bacteria are in the probiotic capsule. And so you can't really control the flavor. If you're trying to elicit those particularly cheesy flavors, etc., you do want to explore, you know, the type, make sure you get the right type that will produce specific flavors. That being said, the probiotic capsule will lower the pH and give it slightly tangy flavors. So if that's what you're looking for, then by all means, go ahead and use a probiotic capsule. I'm trying to refine my flavors slightly better by choosing either mesophilic cultures that will produce slightly more buttery flavors versus thermophilic, which are often used in Italian-style cheeses, etc. So this cheese actually is leftover fondue. I have a fondue formula recipe. If you want to watch the video, I have that. And I took that fondue, I had a lot of it left over, and I added a little bit of agar to stabilize it, and then I mixed in some thermophilic culture and I fermented it, and I am now aging it. I'm going to let it dry out for a day or two. I'm going to coat it in wax and put it in my wine fridge for several months, and I'm going to cut into it and see how it tastes. Are you telling all the girls that there's snacks? What a good rooster does is let all the hens eat first. He announces it to all the hens. That's what he's saying is, look at all the yummy things here. And he invites all the hens over to eat. So somebody asked me, why not just eat regular eggs? I mean, even on a sanctuary, eggs are laid by chickens that have been rescued. Well, we still don't eat them because most of these hens came either from battery cages from the egg laying industry or overcrowded crowded backyard conditions. They come from all sorts of places. And the egg industry is one that actually is incredibly inhumane. You know, back in the old days, if we talk about 100, 200 years ago, yeah, chickens laid eggs. They lay eggs naturally. It's like having a period for a woman. And, but they only lay about 12 eggs a year, not enough to feed a family. Well, we bred the chickens to start laying almost every single day, and their bodies are spent over the course of 2 or 3 years. Their egg production declines, their bodies are tired, their bodies are spent, and then they're turned into nuggets. For meat birds, they're grown to be slaughtered in about 45 days. They're grown to be so much heavier than they ever were naturally. Even when you say cage-free, they're not truly cage-free in that they're just not in battery cages, but they're still crammed into these giant warehouses by the tens of thousands. Being able to see chickens just roam free like this and see them behaving in their natural way. Many of these chickens, especially the leghorns, arrived here when they were maybe 2 or 3, and oftentimes with good care, our chickens will live until they're 8 to 10. Rancho Compasión is in its 11th year. I started it in 2015 with Rufus and Reggie, the 2 original goats. And they are the greatest of all time. They really are. And then Onyx arrived with his brother Argon and Oxy, and more animals started arriving. And next thing you knew, we realized that we needed to form a nonprofit, and today it's a thriving nonprofit with especially with youth programs where we have about 600 kids come through every single year through our camps, our summer camps, our field trips, our after-school programs, connecting with animals in a very organic fashion, getting their hands in the soil in our garden, and just learning about kindness and compassion. Well, thanks for watching the Q&A with Miyoko. Ask me anything and keep the questions coming, and I will try to get to all of them.